Good evening and welcome to the Pullman City Council meeting for this Tuesday, February 23rd. Thank you for being with us, even though we're doing things virtually as we continue to work our way through all this. And Dee, please take roll tonight.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Johnson.
Here.
Councilmember Chapman.
Here.
Councilmember McCall.
Here.
Councilmember Parks.
Here.
Councilmember Records.
Here.
Councilmember Sorensen.
Here.
Councilmember Weller.
Here.
Councilmember Wright.
Here.
Under announcements tonight, we have a few of them. President Joe Biden acknowledged last night the passing of 500,000 Americans from the COVID-19 virus. Here in Whitman County, we've lost 43 of our neighbors, friends, relatives to this virus. There are some of us that can put names on either the 43 or people who have died elsewhere. We know others who have had the virus, recovered, and some with little or no effects, but others that are still working through it. Whitman County is still in phase 1B right now. You can find your phasewa.org. It's a great website. Go on, get yourself listed, and get the vaccine. And again, when it's your turn, you'll be notified, but you can check with your local hospital. You can check with your physician to make sure that you're on the list. I also want to thank all our public health officials, our medical people, our hospitals, and SEL for hosting many of the mass vaccination clinics, not only here, but also in Lewiston as well. And thank you, SEL, for that. Congratulations to City Council member Pat Wright, who has been awarded the Advanced Certificate of Municipal Leadership. Just got that notice last week from the Association of Washington Cities. It represents more than 60 hours of training credits, also community service. As we all know, Pat is very busy. She's been president of the Pullman Regional Hospital Foundation Board. She serves on a lot of boards, helping the community. Congratulations, Pat. She joins council members Nathan Weller, Brandon Chapman, and the mayor in holding that advanced certificate. The Old Public Library is open for limited public access right now with modified services and entry requirements for in-person visits. Just go to the library website. You'll find out how to get on and how to make your appointment. Curbside service is still available. If you're picking up holds, please use curbside service. Whitman County Humane Society started hosting virtual events to celebrate pets and the adoption done by the Whitman County Humane Society every year. This will go on till February 27th. Normally, we would be enjoying the fur ball and yappy hour. We would normally see our police chief and fire chief, Gary and Mike there, along with Sergeant Greg Umbright. Yours truly would be emceeing at a great event, but we can't do it this year. So please go online. Take a look at your favorite parade of pets and see what's going on and see how you can participate in the auction. And if you're feeling a little bit cooped up because of the weather, don't forget to check out Pullman Parks and Recreation's 2021 Activity Guide. And you can also find that on our website. And thank you very much for all of those. Then we now go to item number C tonight. It's the Pullman Arts Commission. It's a discussion tonight. It's a presentation. We're going to start off with our city administrator, Mike Urban, who will set the stage. We'll hear from Joanna Bailey. We have about 4 people who wanted to make some public comment. We'll hear from that too in the council discussions. So, Mike Urban, we'll start with you.
All right, great. Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, council. I just wanted to start tonight's presentation by providing a clarification to our community. There's been implications through multiple sources that the Pullman City Council has already made a decision on the topic of this agenda item. And that's just simply not the case. What you're about to hear is the Arts Commission recommendation being presented to the City Council for the very first time. The Arts Commission met on the afternoon of February 9th to discuss and craft this recommendation. Tonight's agenda was the first available meeting to get this item in front of the City Council for a presentation. So this presentation is the last step of the Arts Commission process and begins the City Council process of determining this public art recommendation to the City of Pullman. The Pullman City Council has followed all open public meeting act laws, and no action has been taken prior to now, as has been implied. So with that, I'm going to take a step aside and turn it over to Joanna for the full presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight, I am here as the staff liaison to the Pullman Arts Commission to present its recommendations on the End Racism Now mural. On November 18th, the Arts Commission issued a call for artists under the theme End Racism Now. 7 entries from 3 artists were received. The public was invited to provide feedback for informational purposes through February 7th. On February 1st and 3rd, 2 of the more popular submissions were withdrawn from consideration at the request of individual artists. The Arts Commission met during their regularly scheduled meeting of February 9th to review the remaining submissions and public feedback. After considerable deliberation, the Arts Commission formed its recommendation to City Council, which is to extend its call for artists for a period of 1 month to include the original 5 submissions from the original 3 artists, along with any additional submissions for consideration. The original artists would also be invited to resubmit their withdrawn works for consideration, again, along with any additional new works from new artists. If Council prefers instead to select from the remaining submissions, the Arts Commission recommends submission number 5, which is the End Racism Now Black Lives Matter submission with the rainbow background. Mr. Mayor, this concludes the formal presentation from staff. I'll stay on the line to be available to answer questions from Council following public comment.
At this point, we had people who notified us ahead of time that they would like to say something on this. They all know they have a 3-minute time limit. So we're going to go first of all to Anthony, and please state your name and your address. And again, you have 3 minutes, and I will be giving you a 30-second warning. Okay? 3 minutes. So Anthony, the floor is yours.
All right. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
All right. Yeah, thank you so much for this opportunity to make a public comment, and a special thanks to Brandon Chapman for getting us together on July 14th to make this presentation.
Can we get name and address, please?
Name and address. Anthony Haynes. Yeah, sorry about that. Anthony Haynes, 1105 Southeast Sunnymead Way, Pullman. All right. So, yeah, I just want to start off with, as a member of the group that came, we want to see the words Black Lives Matter on the mural. Just to give you a little update, or not an update, but a summary of how it kind of came together. I mean, obviously it was, what happened with George Floyd, and there was a protest here in Pullman. It was the largest protest, and we started at WCU and walked all the way down to City Hall. And it was very powerful. There was one point where Jason Kennedy called for 8 minutes and 46 seconds of silence, and I remember it was quiet, but then you could hear the sound of people starting to cry, and they're upset. And I realized that that I too started to try to hold the tears back, but they came because I stopped and I thought, I started picturing, like, what if that was my son, what if that was my dad or my cousin or my brother or my uncle that had been held down for that amount of time. So it really hit me hard. And afterwards, we talked, and the conversations were rich and lively, and we're like, what can we do to keep this energy going? And they were like, well, let's get the Black Lives Matter on the streets here in Pullman, like they did in Washington, D.C. So that's how it all got started. Just wanted to give some background on that. But just wanted to address a few more things. I'll make it quick. I know people are concerned about, like, the organization Black Lives Matter, and I think we can have that discussion, and let's not be afraid to have that discussion. Fact check websites have been really having a hard time keeping up with the disinformation out there, but we can't get into that tonight. But I'm confident that this organization is just a grassroots, organic, just reaction to history and everything that's happened. And regarding the precedent, I think it's a false equivalency to say, like, well, what if somebody came with, and wanted to put a Confederate flag on a mural. But that's a non-starter. That's a false equivalency. These are two different situations, and they're just not the same. And so I would hope that Pullman Arts Commission, you know, by
30 seconds.
putting the call out to artists out there would say that we require Black Lives Matter to be on it. So so let's tell the truth on this wall. Why, you know, the people came together and why we did this. You know, Black people have been dehumanized for way too long, and let's have the courage to humanize Black people and have the courage to put the words Black Lives Matter on that wall here in Pullman. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony. Our next
You're
speaker is Rob Dambuka. Rob, I see you on camera here, so go right ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Good evening, everybody. My name is Rob Ndambuki. I live at 218 Northwest Sunrise Drive. I have lived in Pullman for the last 20 years, but I'm originally from Kenya. The Kenyan population is less than 1% non-African. Societal divisions there are along tribal and linguistic lines, not racial lines. Coming to America was definitely a change. I was advised that if I experienced racism, I was living in a white town and that I should take care of what I say. This advice remained with me for a long time and beyond. I am a business owner and I'm friends with a diverse group of people. I'm blessed, but that has not prevented me from being mistreated simply on the basis of my skin. When I worked at a nursing home, I cared for a man who asked me daily if there was not anyone else to take care of him that was not Black. Not long after that, I took care of an elderly man whose family had owned slaves. At the end of his life, he was surrounded by Black people who took care of his every need. Only now that he was paying them. The only reason that he never called us niggers was that he was completely blind by then. He would recount stories about his Negroes. This language choice was especially shocking from hearing it from an old white man. There was always something in his tone that belied his attitude of superiority. Later on, working at a hospital, I took care of a young woman who complained about my work. I had always been praised by my patients who on 4 occasions rewarded me with the Guardian Angel Award for the good care they had received from me. This woman's only problem was that she did not want to be cared for by a Black person. She told the nurse, quote, "Actually, there's nothing wrong with him. It's just that I hope you understand. I have problems with the color of his skin. You see, I grew up in Aryan Nation in Idaho. When I complained, I was advised to write an incident report in order to protect myself from false charges, but I was not supported in any other way. But the burden of carrying all this treatment around inside me has felt heavy when even my own friends who know me personally and still treat me differently. And yet I remain very hopeful that through dialogue and listening to one another, we can all continue to grow.
Thank you. I know we're a little out of time here. So next is Carol.
I can talk from the phone or I can talk on the video. I wasn't sure whether the phone.
Why don't you just move over to the chair? Or just move over to the chair.
There.
You can come.
Okay. You might want to turn that off so there's no feedback. I'm sorry, I didn't know what was going to work. So
it's working, Carol.
Okay, fantastic.
Okay, go right ahead.
Okay, good evening. My name is Carol Bambuki. I live at 218 Northwest Sunrise Drive in Pullman. I come to you mostly as a teacher, but also as a stepmother and also as a caregiver. So 3 different perspectives. January of last year, we had an opportunity to see the Holocaust Memorial in Boston. Rob and I did. And there's a large marble like placard at the beginning that has a quote of one of the most famous victims in that tragedy. And this is what that quote says. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. In response to this very sentiment that there's no one left to speak, the Black Lives Matter rises up in solidarity to speak for one another. I've been a teacher for a really long time, and in the Battleground School District and Pullman School District, both use a anti-bullying curriculum called Second Step. Through this curriculum, we teach students to be allies, to stand up and stand with one another, and it's a very successful program. I've been a second language teacher, and English as a second language teacher for 20 years, so I have worked with students from all over the world. I know firsthand that the students experience hatred, prejudice in the hallways, classrooms, and particularly in the cafeterias of our schools. And the adults around them rarely know a tenth what really goes on, which makes the impact of the bullying all the more devastating. In schools where the anti-bullying education is committed, consistent, and thorough, these students from all cultures, language backgrounds, religions, and perspectives learn to put themselves in one another's shoes. Here in Pullman, when this group of young people came before you all in July to encourage us to work together as a community to officially create a Black Lives Matter mural, their goal was very clearly stated. Speaker after speaker told you that they wanted the project to be part of a joint effort to listen to and educate one another. The submission being recommended to you today, the rainbow design, starts with a call to action and ends with naming the issue, and that is immensely powerful. The call to action for us all is to end, thank you, is to end racism now, specifically because Black Lives Matter. It has been suggested that this call to action, End Racism Now, should stand alone in a mural in the place of the supposedly more contentious Black Lives Matter. But that cannot be. In order for change to happen, the issue must be unequivocally named. In order for us to be called to fix the problem, we must first name it. Thank you very much for your time and consideration.
And now the last person will be Ivy, and I see her name up there. She is on the phone. Is that correct?
Hi, yes, I'm here. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, Ivy. Go ahead.
All right. I know you've heard from me before, but I just wanted to give you a little bit more background on me specifically and why this project remains to be important, even though it's become as divisive as it currently is. I'm 22 years old, and my first exposure to social justice was through Facebook, very much like Black Lives Matter has used Facebook to kind of help communities organize all around the nation. And this happened when I was 14 years old, and I didn't tell my parents because I wasn't supposed to have a Facebook page. But when this happened, I saw a video of a line of protesters being run over by a truck, and in the comments were all these people celebrating and saying how, like, you should follow the law. And I feel like it was so angering for me because the message was so far lost to them that they weren't willing to consider human life. And so I did what, anyone would do when something angers them online. I commented. And as a 14-year-old, I was really upset. I was like, this is despicable. I can't believe this is happening, and I can't believe this is the world that I live in. And my comment got so much traction, and I didn't notice it. Thousands of people replied to my comment and messaged me personally, calling me the worst things, the worst slurs, saying I should be lynched like used to be in the old days. And that scared me so much. I chose to be silent for several years after that because I wasn't willing to face that backlash. And through my silence, just like Audre Lorde said, your silence will not protect you. And not that anything has happened to me, but it's shown me that it takes bravery to advocate for Black lives. And that's why I think this mural should really say Black lives. And I'm putting my support behind the recommendation of the design, the 5th design by May, because the antithesis of Black lives is Black death. And I'm hurt by it because I just watched a video of Ahmaud Arbery's mom, because today is the commemoration. It's been a year since he was murdered. And it, as a Black woman, it never gets easy to
30
see
seconds.
that. And as far as I've seen it, it's hurt me. And I think the city of Pullman would rather unite and focus on celebrating Black life than dwell on Black death, because we don't want to be put in a reactive position. If something like this happens in our community, in our state, in our county, we'd rather be proactive about it and let the people that are racist know that this is not acceptable. Hate doesn't live here.
Okay.
And that's all I wanted to say. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Ivy. And that concludes the public comment. We did receive a few other emails that came into the council and the mayor. And with that, we left it off with Joanna saying if there's questions that any of the council had of the recommendations that came from the Arts Commission, we'll start there. And anyone who wants to start out with, raise your hand, we'll go for you. And you also heard Mike's summary that there was some information that went out that wasn't necessarily truthful on this thing. So, Joanna, is there anything further you would like to make a comment on? And then I see Eileen's got a hand up. Is there anything further, Joanna, or should I just go to Eileen?
Sure, thank you.
Okay. Eileen, you're next.
Yeah, I've got some process questions, but at first I sort of like to maybe kind of clarify. Part of what we're wrestling with here is the fact that here in this community, we've never done this before. We have never put together a large art installation that had an overt message. We've simply never done it before. Other communities have wrestled with this at this time as well, and sometimes their deliberations have been lengthy also. So that's a whole bunch of what's going on here. And as has been stated, we have to be very sure that we are being fair. And to be fair, we need clear policies and procedures for putting in an installation that many will perceive as having an overt message. Such a message was inadvertently put up along with the butterfly wall. A message was put up there that was identified with the Obama campaign, and they got a little ahead of themselves, and then it was determined that that was inappropriate for that installation. But at that time, no policy advancement was done at that time that I'm recalling. So, art in public places is always controversial, and are often controversial, and we have to make sure that we're serving the community, that we're serving the message, and that we're doing this right, because we want to do a good thing here, and we're not just we're not being casual about it, because being casual about it can lead to opening doors that maybe we shouldn't be opening in this particular way. And one of the doors that we've sort of opened that got us into some trouble was, and my question is for Joanna, how was it determined that there would be a public vote to, because that one little 4-letter word has caused a lot of stuff to happen.
Okay, thank you, Eileen. So in the art in public places policy, there are, and let me just refer to that. There are several places in that policy that address inclusion of public feedback. And when the Arts Commission started wrapping utility boxes at the direction of council, the words that were used at that time for each of those 4 utility boxes during that public feedback process was vote for your favorite. And so the commission simply used that same verbiage that it had used in the past for the utility box project for this project. So the intention remained the same, where it was gathering public feedback for informational purposes. That's the same intention for this project as it was for the utility box project.
Well, my challenge and my problem with this is that this absolutely ran away, as I'm sure you've noticed. We've had people that want a winner declared. There are people that have declared a winner. There are people that have insisted that the winner be honored. And I'm disappointed that we didn't have some response from the Arts Commission or whoever may have been, the appropriate party, to remind people, not just take those words down, but remind people that this was input and that there was not a popular vote. And that is just, I mean, we're getting emails. We've had hundreds of emails that say, my vote needs to count. My vote needs to count. And what is a vote? I mean, these votes were tallied. If it's not a vote, why was it tallied? Is a thumbs up a vote? Is a heart a vote? Is a like a vote? Is a Facebook a vote? Is a 3 paragraphs written into the Arts Commission website a vote? This just got us into a whole heck of a lot of trouble. And, you know, I'm still, you know, I'm burning over this. I want to hear from people, but I don't want to mislead them into thinking that that something's going to happen in a way that's not accurate.
Okay, other would like to say.
There, yeah.
We'll go to Brandon next. And
Yeah, thank you.
and
I remember the utility box. That was one of my first council meetings, actually. That was in March that we did that. And maybe this is not accurate, but my recollection of that process was a little different, where we didn't hear from a group wanting to do this. Like the Arts Commission was the one who was kind of the de facto applicant, had a good idea on what to do, and presented us with that idea, including winnowing down all the submissions to whatever that number was and submitting it to us. And I think it was 7 or 8. And then we had I thought, a rich discussion about those different pieces. And we had the hard, decision to put that down to 2. And we of course did that. But that process, as it was communicated to us, was I think followed from start to finish. I mean, that is the process that we were given in that. And so I think that was maybe some of this confusion, and trying to compare the utility box process to this is certainly one that has left I think people confused, because like Councilmember McCall says, we do get people saying, how are we going to refuse the one that won? One what, so obviously the recommendation and the wording that's been used is advisory capacity, and then the recommendation would be given to council. And I appreciate receiving that recommendation tonight. We've been waiting on the official recommendation, not just what we assumed would be the recommendation, but the difficulty is there hasn't been really any reference to the fact that that the language used initially wasn't simply give us feedback. It was vote, and it might very well have been in the sense of, hey, when we say vote, we really mean feedback, but people have taken that and run with it as a popular vote. And I know on one small subset, it being Facebook in this instance, and it being so open, I think that caused some consternation among many people. So I get that.
Dan, records, please.
Thanks, Mayor. You know, what Eileen said about Pullman having never done this before, there has been a long history of concerns about racism in Pullman. A lot of people of color have raised concerns about racism in Pullman over the years, over the decades. There's, a history of events that people point to, of incidents that have occurred with the police, with different businesses, with WSU. And this is something that, with the events that have unfolded over the past year, we've seen a lot of communities across the country struggling with how to have a community-wide conversation about what do we do about this issue, where people are identifying racism about their own experiences, about their interactions with public officials, with members of government, with local businesses. And a lot of times these invoke kind of uncomfortable reactions from a lot of different people, and not everyone agrees on what racism means in each of these communities across our country. And I really want to thank the people that made public comments today. We received a lot of emails on this mural, and what I would like to see come out of this whole situation is for the city to enter that conversation with a little bit more structure and a little bit more in the driver's seat of how do we create that environment where our community, not just the city dictating to the community, but how can our community and how can we support our community in facilitating that conversation about what do we think racism means in our community, and what do we do about that issue? Because when we leave it to social media, the story runs away from us, and we don't have a lot of control over that, and we can't really enter that realm very effectively as a municipal government. And so I think that's been one of my frustrations with the process that the mural has gone through, is that most of this has played out online and with lots of voices going back and forth, but not necessarily a lot of constructive conversation happening or facilitated conversation. And so when I was thinking back to what do we want, the call for, or the mission of the Public Arts Commission is as an advisory body to the City Council. And when there's when we ask the Public Arts Commission to go out and find a space for a public arts project and give them direction on what we want that public art installation to include, and to find artists that can make that happen, we anticipate that they will go out and gather feedback from the community on that type of art installation and what the city's mission is with that art installation. And in this instance, I don't feel that we as a city did enough preparation to really direct the Arts Commission on what kind of feedback we wanted to get from the community. When you go back and look at that council meeting back in June or July when we first discussed this, everybody seems to think that this council and the city act as one united voice, and that's just simply not true. We have 7 very independent and oftentimes opinionated individuals on this council, and we don't always agree. And if you look at that meeting, we each tried to say something, but collectively we didn't say a whole lot. And so when you take that feedback, I feel like the Arts Commission probably struggled with figuring out how to implement the directions from council on this. And I feel like personally that I should have said more in that meeting when I look back on it about what we wanted to see and what this means, what this project means for the city of Pullman going forward. Because this isn't just about an art installation. This is a lot bigger issue. We're talking about things that our country and every community across the country struggles with. And this isn't just about a piece of art. And one piece of art is not going to solve racism in Pullman. And so I don't want to see this end up being where we focus on the controversy that's happened with the social media comments and everything going on. With a lot of those comments if you look at some of the, not just the Arts Commission Facebook, but some of the other comments on social media from other venues, a lot of those comments are not coming from residents of Pullman. They're coming from outside our community. And how do we really get a control of this and make this a constructive conversation? And so I don't want this to be where we just put up a mural and pat ourselves on the back and say, we did it, we solved it, because that's just not true. We need to have, a lot longer conversation. We need to put some things in place as a city to create a structure that people feel like they have a voice and a place to go with that voice when there are these discussions about racism. And I, personally, as far as this mural project, if we complete a mural, I would like it to say Black Lives Matter on it. I think that's important. Art is controversial, and the intention of these Black Lives Matter murals and art installations across the country is to be a symbol to start that conversation. But I don't want to see this devolve into everybody picking sides and saying we can't come together, because the whole point of this is to figure out how we can come together and learn as a community how to talk to each other about this. So, thinking beyond just this mural project, I would like, at some point I would like to propose that the city do something more, take actual action steps, like creating some sort of council on equity, whether that's an entirely city-owned council or board, or if that's a partnership with other partners in the community. I think our community needs something where we can actually create some strategic initiatives and action steps going off into the future. So this isn't just a one and done, we put up a statement and then we're good.
Excellent, Dan. We'll go next to Nathan, and then we'll go to Pat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And Dan, that was so very eloquent. It's tough for me to follow my comments on that. I have to say I'm somewhat biased on this. I was at that march and spoke at that march. Joined by other people, of course. But my best friend, he was from Sudan. His family was from Sudan. And growing up, I often saw racism occur. Did my best for it. So for me, it's a difficult conversation, as Dan already said, and I do believe overarching beside the process, I'm less of a process person, and that's why I appreciate the people who are process oriented, because they're able to keep us be able to look at that area. It's the conversation that really needs to occur, and I do appreciate what Dan has said. I have similar feelings, and that's all I can really say regarding this. I don't like what I've seen on social media, but if people feel that they need to air their grievances, I understand. And it's such a difficult subject. We have so many different cultures in our area, and this is an issue we need to address. I'm not saying that Pullman is racist. I'm saying racism does occur here. We're not in a vacuum. We're not in a bubble. That's all from me. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Pat Wright, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, before I get into the meat of what we're dealing with here, I would like to recognize the time and effort and the value of all of our volunteers that serve on all our different committees and commissions. They do this because they're passionate about it and because they want to do something that will make a difference. And I feel very badly that we've had 3 art commissioners resign over the last couple of days as a result of some of the problems that have arisen as a result of this discussion that we're having. And that makes me feel very sad and very afraid that we could be losing one of our strongest city assets, and that is in our volunteers. So I do want to make sure that, at least from my perspective, you are valued, and I do appreciate all of the work that you do. Having said that, I'm going to say, I'm going to go out there on a limb probably and say that this whole process, and thank you, Nathan, that was a great segue for me, because I am very process oriented. And this process had a lot of missteps as I kind of go back and look at everything that we did. And you know what? It starts with us, and eventually it ends with us. But we were not very clear about exactly what it was that we wanted to have happen with this project. It's been my experience that when people don't do what you want them to do, it's because they don't know what you want them to do. And so we didn't have good, clear direction with criteria and exactly what we were looking for. But the other side of that is in the whole art acquisition process. Typically, and I think Dan alluded to this, the Arts Commission would come to the council with a particular project, list off how that project was selected, and give it off to the council for recommendation to go forward. This didn't happen. The council threw this project to the Arts Commission with limited instruction. And so as a result of that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, tonight we are at that point of, let me read it, that the PAC shall provide in writing, or, you know, as we have in person, appropriate background information, objectives, and selection criteria for the project to the council. I believe that that's the step at which we are now. Correct me if I'm wrong, Joanna, but that's kind of what I'm reading into this process. So with that having been said, I think that we are in a position where we have to review what we want to do. We have to decide if we're going to go forward with any of the pieces that have been presented to us. And again, reminding the council that we do have precedent in turning back submissions, such as what we did when we had the first utility wrap box, and we came down with a selection that kind of represented something that we really didn't think identified Pullman. And so the end of that was the beautiful wheat scape wrap box that we have now, that is on the corner of Grand and Main Street. So that occurred after we turned a project back to the Arts Commission and had them kind of, you know, go back to the drawing board on that. So whether or not that's what we do is still up to discussion, but I think that, you know, I'm kind of trying to look at and review the process and recognize where this kind of went awry. And so I just kind of throw that out there for more discussion, more thought. And I think the other part of this is, what's the message that we want this mural to convey? Is it division? Is it collaboration? Is it healing? Is it coming together? And, you know, going forward, that's what's going to speak volumes about Pullman. And I think we really need to be mindful of that. And with that last having been said, I thoroughly agree with Dan that we have to start opening up communication and dialogue in terms of how do we facilitate this continuing and growing perception, problem, issue that we all have to deal with concerning racism. So I yield, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Pat. And as I recall, the submission they gave us was the old broken down bus in Washtenaw. Did not represent Pullman. Ann, I saw your hand. You're next. Ann Parks.
Thank you, Mayor. I saw a phone, someone phone in. Is that a person in the public that wants to comment? Or
we've taken all the public.
It's Eileen. Thank you very much. My home internet went down.
Oh,
okay.
Thank you, Eileen. So now we know who you are there. Okay.
Yes.
Because we had all the ones that we had from the public we knew about. So again.
Okay, thank you. I just want to make sure not to overlook that. I agree with much of what has been said here, particularly, well, a lot of it. And Dan, I chime in with my agreement with everything that you said. My issue tonight is not so much the content of the mural as it is, well, that's not true. It is actually. We've gotten a lot of feedback, as the council has said, and the people who have impacted me the most with their feedback are Rob and Carol and Ivy. Not just what they said tonight, but what they wrote to us also, because they exemplify what the problem is, that they're, you know, we can all sit here and say, oh, Pullman's not racist. And as a town, that's correct. We can't generalize, but it is happening here. It does happen here. And we can all point to instances of it happening. So I do actually support the Black Lives Matter words being on the mural, but I really also agree with what's been said about the process and the way it was just very sloppy, and it did not lead to clear, concise instruction and or submissions then after that. There just seemed to be some confusion. Artists were withdrawing pieces. That's highly unusual in a public call for art. And I do really feel that we do need to revisit this and give better direction and go back to our process, because this process quickly got out of control and it really caused a lot of confusion. And because of the issue that is surrounding this, it then has caused a lot of divisiveness. And like Councilmember Pat Wright said, we don't, you know, we want to be about unity, not divisiveness. So all of that is kind of a jumble, but I really hope that we can come to an agreement here on how to go forward and be inclusive and thoughtful about all of the people, you know, from all over the world that live in this community and have feedback to share. And I do think that maybe the creation of a task force, I've been on task force before, and they're very focused on the particular issue, and actually a lot gets done in that setting. So maybe we can open up, you know, an idea for something like that. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments? I think we've had I want to make sure that all council members have had a chance to say something first. I don't see a hand up there, so I'm going to go to Brandon.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, and I appreciate all of my colleagues who have spoken. And you know, when I go through and reconcile some of the things that I'm remembering from before, and you know, I was with zero hesitation pleased to have the group that came to us on July 14th and present this. And you know, I've made no secrets, right? So Anthony Haynes, who spoke tonight, he's my neighbor. He lives across the street from me, and you know, he talks about his kids and you know, what that would be like. And then Jason Kennedy was one of the ones who presented to us. And you know, I've known Jason for 30 years almost. So I look at that group came to us in good faith, and their message was one of healing and of dialogue as well. And they certainly wanted to have a strong message, as Anthony Haynes said tonight. They wanted it to be something specific. So if we look back in terms of our direction to, the Pullman Arts Commission, I don't know where we strayed in terms of not giving enough, but I do remember the group came to us. We were told we needed to remand that to the Pullman Arts Commission. And, looking back at it in hindsight, maybe our process needs to, if a group were to come to council, maybe we should not remand that. Maybe we should discuss it more. And then the next time, maybe wait, and then at a subsequent council meeting, do that to make sure that we have time to make sure it is clear and those criterion are set. And maybe that would have helped in this case, because we did meet on July 14th and then send it to the Arts Commission, who met August 11th. And then it was already down that road, I guess. So in that regard, Dan mentioned this is not new, like the topic of racism here in Pullman. But in terms of sending this kind of thing, with this body from City Council to Arts Commission, that probably was a little new for us. And receiving that kind of request from a group, again, they did it in good faith. But sending that along, there probably were missteps.
Okay. We've had several proposals tonight. In terms of the council, you've had a proposal to extend the deadline. You've also had a recommendation from the Arts Commission to accept this one particular one. You've also talked about extending, working on the process, a task force, some other things. So where's the council? And I'll go back
Mayor
to Dan.
Johnson?
I'll go back to Dan.
I have a
We'll
question.
go to Eileen after that. After Dan, we'll go to Eileen.
I have a question for Joanne or maybe Mike. Since we've had some resignations on the Arts Commission, what does it look like? What do we anticipate if the council wanted to allow the Arts Commission to extend the call for artists? Do we anticipate that, given that there's also been some controversy online about this, do we anticipate that we would even be successful in gathering more artists at this point?
I'm going to defer to Joanna a little bit because she is the staff to that. I wouldn't even be able to venture a guess since I haven't been involved in the meetings, but that's a real open-ended question. So there's 3 positions that are open on the Arts Commission right now, and how fast we can get them filled is the question that's been on my mind most of the day.
Well, and I think along with that question is really the timeline that we're looking at. So the Arts Commission is recommending that we extend the call, but given that there's those openings, would that further delay that extended call? And part of that is, we're still in winter. There's still snow on the ground. So what is the likely anticipated start date of a mural being, put on the wall? So I think that's part of one of the questions that we would need to answer before we can kind of determine that.
Sure. So just so I understand your question, Councilman Records, are you asking about what the possibility is of us recruiting additional or obtaining additional submissions? Or are you asking about the timeline as it relates to the vacancies on the commission?
I think both of those. And I think, in my opinion, I think some of those issues that we have right now may hamper our ability to get artists submitting to this project in a timely fashion.
Okay. So when the Arts Commission discussed, there was a lot of really intentional and robust discussion at their last meeting. Given that the number of submissions had dropped by 2, given the high value that the commission feels this project has. And given the fact that there is such interest, a higher interest at this point than when the project first opened, the commission felt that there was a very good chance that there, should the council agree to extend the deadline, that there was a good chance that additional submissions might come in. I recall them talking in the meeting about one comment on Facebook from an artist saying, gosh, I wish I had known about this. I really would have wanted to submit some works for consideration. So having said all that, it is an unknown. We don't know if opening and extending the timeline would generate additional submissions. But to your comment about timeline, we are in the winter, and you really, paint is not going to cure. It's not going to adhere to the surface. You really don't install a painted mural in the middle of winter. So I would have to consult. I know Joe Hedges had consulted with our chair, Jerry Harris. And so we'd have to go back to Joe to find out, what exactly the timeline is. But in the early discussions, it was the springtime. It was later spring, when the weather is warmer, when surfaces are dry, when we can get that good application and adherence. So the opening, or the extension of the call to see if you get additional submissions, the commission is recommending a 1 month period. That, because we are in winter, that would not affect the installation, because you can't install anyway right now.
Sure. And I would just add to that, there's still the majority of the commissioners that are on the board. And 1 month from now, if nothing changes, we're in the exact same position. We really haven't lost ground, as Joanna said, due to the weather, because you can't be out there painting tomorrow.
Thank you. I just know that, there's been some concerns expressed about it's already taken this long and how much longer before we actually see it on the wall. So I think it's important for people to know that timeline detail. Thank you.
Okay, Eileen on the phone.
Yeah, thanks. I think we're talking about extending the call. Are we sort of in danger of making the same mistake twice? What I think we've identified is that there was a need for clarity coming from council about the nature of the call and maybe the wording and I would have liked to have seen, rather than just having something just sort of appear on Facebook, because not everybody's on Facebook. And if we're looking to reach communities of diversity and a broad spectrum of even our local population, not everybody's on Facebook. I didn't know anything about Facebook until somebody said, hey, did you see this thing on Facebook? So if we're gonna sort of set the clock back, I think we could quickly, with help from council, I would volunteer to be in on this, to redo the call and make it clear that we're looking specifically for communities of diversity to submit art for us. Make that call, really polish it up, and make it what we really, really want it to be. We could get a draft together very quickly, I think, and either bring it back to council for approval or have the Arts Commission get a comfort level with it and run it through, whatever administrative requirements we are comfortable with, and through Laura, and redo that call and make it really dynamic and make it really reach out to the communities that we want to see input from. So that's my thought. That's what I would love to see happen, is that we get a group together, redo that call, make it really be what we want it to be. Thank you.
Okay. Any reaction to what Eileen's comment? Or Pat, we'll go. I see your hand up first, Pat Wright.
So I would agree with Eileen, and what I was going to state was that with as many missteps as we had all along the way with this, I think we do need to consider starting from scratch. And I know that's not going to be a popular decision, but I think it is the least offensive given all of the issues that we've had with this. And I think it would behoove us to be more clear in what we're looking for, what the message is that we want to present. And I think in that we can also come up with a reasonable timeline. Just my 2 cents.
Okay. Any others? Okay, Brandon.
Yeah, thank you. And I guess I do have one question for Joanna. Knowing that mural art can be kind of a niche craft, I know one of these artists that submitted to Pullman does a lot of art in Spokane, and including mural art. And it does make me wonder if a city of 200,000 people has folks outside of Spokane going into Spokane and doing this kind of art. What is the number that we would consider sufficient in a city of our size? Where do we sit now? Like 4 or 5, and we lost a few. But what is the number that we're hoping for? I guess to determine, hey, that was a sufficient number of submissions to choose from. I'm not really sure what that is, because I look at still, we were asked for something specific, and in the dual recommendation that we received from the Arts Commission, one of them does fit that. So that's kind of where I'm at, going, well, obviously one of those was pleasing in some way to the Arts Commission, but then there's this also a recommendation to really extend the call. So what would we need to receive to make that, I guess, be considered valid or what have you?
Sure. I think, Councilmember Chapman, that is a question that is best answered by council itself. Is there a particular number that you are looking for?
Dan Records. I saw your hand up.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. And this is something, the idea to extend the call is something that I've really kind of struggled with, because I do actually like the submission that the Arts Commission recommended. But I also recognize that there have been significant issues in the communications and the process on this. And so I'm kind of struggling there. And part of the process issues, one of the things that, Brandon's comment about what's the number of submissions, when we saw, we had 7 original submissions, but we only had 3 artists, and they were submitting we had artists submitting multiple submissions. And some of those are really substantially the same submission. It's just an alternate version. And so how do we, and not just for this discussion on this particular arts project, how do we talk about that when we're putting out a call for artists, so that, because I don't really, like, some of the submissions are so close together, I don't really think of them as separate submissions. It's just an alternate option of adding one element to what was already submitted. So what I think part of this conversation should also be, what do we consider as a unique submission? And do we need to put some language in a call for artists that describe that?
Okay, Laura McAloon, our attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to give some input on the idea of doing the call again, but differently than the standard process. So having council members volunteer to participate in revising and redrafting the call. What I would recommend is to follow your policy, and I'd agree with Joanna that if there needs to be more clear direction, because this actually was a council initiated, based on public input, this was a council initiated project that it then gave to the Arts Commission to implement and come back to you with recommendations. if you want to revise the call, then I would suggest that you as a council come up with what are the parameters that you want to be in the call, and then you have the Arts Commission do the call. That's your standard procedure. And where cities get into trouble with public art is not following your standard procedures that you have in writing and your practices in the past. So I just wanted to put that information out there.
Thank you. Something else to think about as they're going through this process tonight. So you've heard also a suggestion of a committee, possibly made up of no more than 3 council members that could put together the clarity that would go back to the Arts Commission. You've heard at least one person volunteer. Where are you at on this? Would you want to go back to the call, or you? And again, this is more of a presentation tonight. It was not one of an action item, but obviously we have some clarity that we need to have here. So, other comments? As we look at each other.
If we decide for a committee, I'd be happy to serve.
Okay.
You know, where I'm at, Mayor, right now is I would actually go forward with the submission number 5, but I'm guessing and looking around the room, and I don't know if there's enough support for that. So if there is a committee, I would be happy to be a part of that.
I would, I'd go forward with number 5.
There's 2. But Al, I see your hand. Okay, Al.
Yeah. Is my microphone working okay? Hello? Okay. I've been sitting here listening to all of this tonight, just soaking it all in. And this is the way the council is supposed to work. You guys, everybody have their input, everybody discuss things, and that's all good. I've got a couple of things here. Laura, it was just talked about, revising the call or whatever. There's nothing that says that I know of that we can't rescind our call and just drop what we just did. And in replacement of that, do something different. And I believe there's been plenty of conversation and comment tonight from multiple different council members that they don't feel that the way this process went was anything that we want to use to represent us as a council at the city of Pullman. I believe that it is all of our responsibility to represent all of the citizens of Pullman, including our wards and everybody else, to the best ability that we can for the most amount of people in town. And that is the way that I've always worked my ward in whatever decisions I make. There's a lot of things, as has already been said tonight, that, are not decided on this. We had asked the Arts Commission to evaluate this thing, make some recommendations and bring it back to us for discussion, which is what's going on tonight. We did not okay the wall on Spring Street to be the one to be painted on. We have not okayed anything yet. And as Mike Urban mentioned at the very start of this, there's a lot of misinformation about what the council has done or hasn't done. And, we didn't say, have we decided if it's permanent or temporary? We do not. Have we notified local residents in the area of where this mural may go? We have not. Have we thought about the downtown master plan, because this area is included in the downtown master plan? Have we actually surveyed people in town like we like to do? We put out all kinds of surveys in town, and as far as I know, I'm not on social media for a specific reason. And only reaching out to people on social media. And I understand, Joanna, that we had people could write in and that kind of thing, but I just don't know that if the comment period was broad enough. I mean, to me, the number of responses was not actually very large compared to a population of 38,000 people in Pullman. And the other thing is, where did those responses come from? Are they Pullman people or not Pullman people? I think that we have to step back on this. What I would suggest is that we basically cancel the first thing that we asked the Arts Commission to do, or that the majority of council members asked them to do. And before we send something back to the Arts Commission, we need to be clear on what we want done. And there are a lot of things that we need to decide on, and not only for this project, but for any future project. We need to have things in place so that we know how to handle this when this comes up again, and it will come up again. Okay. I've heard from a lot of people in town who have not sent in emails or got on Facebook, and they have a different opinion of things, and they want to have their voice heard. The other thing is this: I have people who would have spoke tonight, but they did not know that this was going to be an open public meeting. This was a discussion item advertised as only that. And then in order for you to say anything, you had to sign up for new business, and you had to do it before 5 o'clock today. We didn't publicize that enough. So there truly has not been enough input from the general public on this entire process. And I will also throw this out there. What is the hurry? Okay. We need to make sure that whatever decision is made and whatever the majority of the council decides on has been thought out thoroughly and gone through a complete process. Just to do something to get it done is not the right thing to do. Okay. I ask this one last question of everyone at City Council and everyone listening and everyone out there. Okay. When it comes down to it, does any life matter more than another? And I'll leave it right at that.
Thank you, Al. Council, where are we at on this? We've heard several comments about putting together a committee, redefining things. We also heard a potential of rescinding. Obviously, you don't have to vote tonight on anything, but we do need direction. And again, there is no rush. Again, there's no way a mural can be painted here in the next couple of months at least. So where are we at? Because we obviously have other council business tonight. Ann Parks, I'll go to you next.
Thank you, Mayor. I disagree strongly that we should rescind the entire process and, as was said, throw this out. That's really disrespectful to the artists who have already done the work and who have gotten the feedback from the public. And I think that we can refine the process and ask for clarity in this process about this project, including these artists. But to say we're just going to completely start over is not the right answer, in my opinion. And if you have to ask if all lives matter, then you really don't understand what Black Lives Matter is about.
Other comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Eileen.
I'm gonna bore you and reiterate what I said before. I think we've had some excellent volunteer efforts that people are volunteering their time to serve on a subcommittee to redo this call, and it's not that difficult. The artists that have submitted can be a part of whatever comes out of this, and no one is shutting anyone out. And that's, the effort is to be as fair as possible, and that's the most important part. And like Al says, we need a process. We need to be clearer. If we have the 3 people that raised their hands and said that they would like to serve to redo this call, and then we send it back to the Arts Commission, I'm hoping that that's the decision that we take. And I don't think it will delay the process in terms of getting something going, not that much. So I'm gonna suggest that we move in that direction, and let's hear what other people think.
Okay, Pat Wright.
I say extend the call and add more clarity to what the requirements would be for us.
Okay. And you also volunteered to help out on that committee. Nathan Weller, yours.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So listening to all this, I would say personally, like I said, I'm a little biased. I would go with what has been submitted. There's been a lot of feedback on it. However, given the nature with which all of this really vitriolic situation has stirred up, and some of the confusion, a lot of the confusion, I want to make sure if we put this back out, that there are clear directions. But I want to make sure that the council does not micromanage, and I think this was said last time, micromanage our Arts Commission on things. I think Pat was very eloquent in what she said regarding the hard work that not only the volunteers, but Joanna has put in, as well as the artists, and I would say everyone who has already made comments on this. So that's my opinion.
Okay.
Mayor, do we need a motion on this, or is this?
We would entertain one.
Okay.
If you would like to do it.
Eileen, do you want to put forth the motion?
Yeah, I will. I move that we form a three council member subcommittee or subcommission, or whatever the terminology needs to be, to clarify the objectives for a mural that creates harmony, that promotes harmony, unity, and awareness for considerations of racial equality, inequality, and fairness in our community.
Okay, do I hear a second for that? Pat Wright, I see your hand up. Is that a second? Okay. Pat, we have a second on that. Any further discussion before I call for a vote?
Yes. Mayor, I have a question for Laura. Based on your feedback earlier this meeting, Laura, I'm just wondering, would it be your recommendation that we, that committee create a new call and then invite the artists to come back in? Or, because your comments earlier made me think about, are we redesigning or redoing something the Arts Commission has already taken on, and are we stepping outside of our process?
I think you would be stepping out of your process if it is the council that creates the call. I think what I understood Councilmember McCall's motion to be is that it would be a committee that would, a subcommittee of the city council that would meet and come up with objectives, clear objectives for a mural that promotes harmony, unity, and awareness of inequality in the community. I think I got it all. And then that subcommittee would come back to the city council to get the city council to agree that that's the theme and the criteria for the content that you would be asking the Arts Commission to go put together a call for. So you would simply, yes, what you had done before was really the only real theme you gave the Arts Commission was End Racism Now. And I know that the Arts Commission listened to, it was about a 45-minute discussion that you had in July. Listened to that and listened to all of the council member comments, and that's what they used. But that wasn't very clear. So this subcommittee would create that clarity. And then essentially what you would be doing, what council member Sorensen suggested, you'd be starting over and doing a new call. The prior artist submitted under an existing call with simply a theme of end racism now. So you would be changing the call, therefore you would be starting over.
Okay, thank you for that clarification.
I think that would at least give the clarity that you were looking for. If any further discussion on that before we call for a vote, Nathan, I see your hand up.
Yeah, I will just mention that personally, I feel we're totally changing what the original nature of that mural was requested for, and you know, having a commission or a committee decide on all of this when, from my understanding, that's something that we would give direction. We stay out of that space and allow the Arts Commission to decide those things. I'm feeling like this is more getting into that managing that process to a point where we're actually supposed to be the policy makers, not the internal machinery of this. Maybe I'm getting things wrong here, but this is what I'm kind of feeling like. Is there some clarification maybe that can be provided?
Yeah, Laura, could you simply reread the motion?
I took it down as you moved that the council create a 3 council member subcommittee to clarify the objectives for a mural that promotes harmony, unity, and awareness of inequality in the community. I think there was something else in there, Eileen. I didn't get it down though.
I think I said racial inequality.
Racial inequality.
And then those recommendations would then go to the council and then go to the Arts Commission for the call.
Yes, so the council, this subcommittee would come back to the council. The council would make a decision on the theme that you would want to send to the Arts Commission for them to go through the same process that they just did. So what you did before, but with more clarity and specificity.
Okay, Al Sorensen, your hand's up.
Laura, would you, maybe this will help Nathan a little bit here. Would you read, please, our directive that we sent to the Arts Commission back in July? What did it say?
There was no motion at the July 14th meeting. I didn't
say a motion. We directed them, and you said it just a little while ago. What did we ask them to do? The
directive was to evaluate an art project with a theme of End Racism Now and make a recommendation to the council.
Okay, so I do believe that what Eileen has put forward still has the same content as what that original request was to the Arts Commission.
Yes, all I'm saying is that this subcommittee would create more clarity and for the Arts Commission to follow in terms of what the art would look like, what type of art, those types of things, those parameters. If you think of the art walk recommendation that the Arts Commission brought to you, you're reversing what is normally done. Normally, the Arts Commission comes to you with an idea for an art-related project or event. You then vet that idea and you approve it or you disapprove it, and then the Arts Commission goes back and implements it. This was different in that the group came directly to the council, and the council then said, okay, Arts Commission, go forward and implement that using this as a theme.
Okay.
So we are, sorry.
Yeah, go right ahead, Nathan. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. So this does seems to be that we're getting a little bit more into the nuts and the bolts. Is that right, Laura?
No, I think you are redoing it. I think you are. It might have a similar theme, just stated differently. But I don't believe that you can ask. I don't think it's fair to future artists that you're asking to respond to a call, or to the artists who already responded to one specific call, to be evaluated on the same plane by the selection committee when they responded to two different calls for artists.
And some of these, I mean, just listening to the generalities on this, some of the artists could resubmit and
Yes.
still make the theme, obviously.
Yes, depending on what the theme is, that's whatever the criteria are that are provided to the Arts Commission. Yes, it may be a submittal of the exact same art.
And then again, it may be rejected on the basis it wasn't general enough or something.
Right, and the Arts Commission needs to be able to evaluate the submittals equally and using the same call for artists and the same criteria for selection. Okay. Right, one of those criteria is how well does it meet the call for the theme.
Okay, I see Dan Records. Dan?
So Nathan, I can kind of see where I think I can see where your mind is going on some of these things. And I think what this subcommittee would be doing is not getting involved in the process and decision making at the Arts Commission. What we're talking about is setting some more clarity on the parameters of the project and what does the city council want to see this project become. You know, some of the things we've talked about at this meeting could go into that discussion about what is the vision for the project, as opposed to, you know, what Laura's talking about with the once they get submissions, how are they, you know, evaluating those to, you know, whether or not they meet the theme that we come up with, but then sending it back at the end of that process, still making their recommendations based on their criteria, following the policy for placing public art, and all those types of decisions and things that the work that they do, and how they go out and gather public feedback on that call for artists as well, and on those submissions. So I don't think the council gets involved with the process once we set it in motion. But I think, you know, when I think about that discussion we had back in July, when we asked the Arts Commission to do this, I think it was kind of a jumbled mess of a conversation. And I can kind of see how they would struggle with interpreting what we wanted to see out of it. And so I think we need to have that for all public arts kind of proposals that come to the council, and then we give it to the Arts Commission. I think we need to have that kind of process a little bit more thoroughly done going off into the future.
Any further discussion before we call for the vote? Again, you've heard the motion, and we've had a second. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Raise your hands so we
Aye.
can see your hands, please. Okay.
And I'm on the phone with a voice vote. Aye.
Okay. Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay.
I have 2 in opposition. So the motion carries. Okay. And
Mayor?
yes.
Mike has his hand up. He may have the same question I have. You did have a specific recommendation from the council or from the Arts Commission on the location for a mural. It would be helpful if you gave that direction to the Arts Commission of whether or not to select that location, because then once this criteria goes back or this theme goes back, they'll know what to do and what the format looks
Could
like.
we not have, since this 3-person committee, and we've heard from Dan, Pat, and Eileen that'll be on the committee, they volunteered. Could they not come back with that recommendation to the full council of the location?
The citing needs to be, your policy says the Arts Commission makes the recommendation to the council on the citing. So that's what you have as a recommendation from your Arts Commission, that this mural be located on that city-owned wall on Spring and Main.
But can we not come up with that the following time when our committee recommends it, and then they can adopt it at that time after they've studied?
Your subcommittee is not going to recommend the location.
Okay.
I think what
you can decline to do it for this project and simply tell the Arts Commission that they'll need to find a location and make a recommendation to the council on a location for the future project.
I'm going to go with Al first, and then we'll go to Dan. Okay.
Yeah, I think we just decided that, you know, there's no reason to pick the location right now because we've changed the whole thing. To let the Arts Commission come back with what they're supposed to do and bring us the location. I don't see why we have to decide on a location tonight when we're going to have a whole new presentation back from them. I believe truly that the location of this should be decided on after the rest of this gets done, because that's just not right. How can we pick a place now when we are asking for a lot of different things to be done? You know, I read off a whole laundry list of things that need to be thought about, and location is one of them. So I don't know, in my opinion, to decide on the location tonight is not any, that's micromanaging, as Nathan would say. I don't think that's what we need to do tonight.
Okay, Dan, I'll go to you.
I was just going to say that, you know, I don't think we necessarily need to decide that tonight. I think, you know, I agree, Laura, that I don't think that 3-person subcommittee should be determining or recommending the location, because that's the Arts Commission. But could we simply delay, you know, the Arts Commission has recommended the site for this project. Could we simply delay the decision on their recommendation until later? And then,
I just wanted to make sure that the council considered that, because it is in the recommendation you received tonight.
Yeah.
So you can decide not to vote on that. That's absolutely fine. I just wanted to point out it was in their recommendation.
Okay. Brandon.
So yeah, in trying to reconcile all of this, so I guess what I'm trying to figure out is, I know with art, a lot of it is on scale. And so maybe there's a mock-up that they'll have to shift. And I want to make sure that that's all taken into consideration. If there is some call and the artists, they know what their canvas looks like, so they can design accordingly. Secondly, is in that process, will there be a chance for Public Works or engineering to chime in on the viability of some of them, just from a technical standpoint, whether it be water or cracks or anything like that. And I worry about not giving enough details. Like, I don't want to micromanage, as has been said, but I don't want to hear it down the road that we didn't give enough details. So when would this come in where a site was determined, and how would that be fair to the artist to be able to plan and do their art to scale? Those would be my concerns and or questions to bring up.
Al, I saw your hand.
Yeah, you know, if I'm not reading this correctly, someone tell me, but the original and the main recommendation from the Arts Commission says, recommends to the Pullman City Council to extend its call to artists for a period of 1 month. And they reiterate that again, believes in extending the call. So, you know, if we have to make a decision, then they've come and secondly said, here's the one we would pick. But if I'm wrong, Joanna, you tell me, but that to me was their number one thing to do. Is that correct?
That is correct.
So I'm gathering we're not going to make a decision tonight on that location. And we've already made a motion. We've already had that. We have a committee, and that'll be the next thing that'll happen is the committee will go through and try and come up with some more specifics than we had with the generalities we had the last time. And with that, Mike Urban.
Thank you, Mayor. Just 2 points of clarification, if it pleases the council. I had a different set of names, so who is this 3-member committee so I can staff them properly? I thought it was Pat
Wright, Eileen McCall, and Dan Records are the
Okay.
3 that volunteered.
Okay, I had Brandon, not Eileen. I'm sorry. And when does council want to hear back from this committee?
Because
I'm looking at the agendas and I just want to make sure that I create time to.
Dan, I saw your hand up.
Mayor, I think we need to do this work rather quickly so that we can give sufficient time to the Arts Commission to do the call and give the artists kind of that clarity fairly quickly. So I would recommend that we come back. You know, when is the next, Mike? When is the next anticipated council meeting? Are we meeting next week or?
The next scheduled meeting right now is the 9th of March because we have the goal setting session on the 6th.
Right.
Yeah.
I would recommend that we come back be prepared to come back to council at the March 9th meeting.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Any further things, Mike Urban? You need any more on that one? We got that one. Okay.
No, thank you.
Then we will now move to the rest of the agenda tonight. And again, we have a number of different items. First of all, the consent agenda. These items are considered routine in nature. Do I hear a motion to read by title only?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, Laura McAloon, please go through the consent agenda, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Your consent agenda consists of a motion to dispense with the reading of the minutes of the regular meeting of February 9, 2021 and approve them as submitted. A motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 102303 through 102359, totaling $514,680.32. A motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 102377 through 102380, totaling $124,425.85. A motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 102381 through 102445, totaling $234,834.05. And a motion to approve disbursements for accounts payable checks numbered 102360 through 102376, electronic transfers 12679, 683 through 687, and payroll direct deposits numbered 66700 through 66997, totaling $1,229,521.14.
Is there any item the council would like out for discussion? Seeing none, the consent agenda consists of items 1 through 5. Do I hear a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, we now move to our regular agenda. First item up is we have an ordinance and we also have a resolution. And this is dealing with a request for changing a zoning application. So it's my turn to read the appearance of fairness question. And I'm going by my screen and I'll call on you as we go along. So you might want to have your mics open as we go along. Does any member of this council have any knowledge of having conducted business with either the proponents or opponents of the proceeding? Dan?
No.
Ann?
No.
Al?
No.
Brandon?
No.
Pat?
No.
Nathan?
No.
Okay, Ann, get you on that one?
Yes, I said
Okay.
no.
Okay.
Sorry.
Eileen, what about Eileen?
Sometimes my screen will move with the different positions there. Okay, so number
You need
two.
Eileen.
Eileen.
This is Eileen, and I'm
Oh,
saying
Eileen.
no.
She's
Thank
not
you.
on yours.
And I'll say no too. Okay, now we've got through question number one. Here comes number two. I'm going to start with Eileen. I think that'll be the best way here. Has any member of this council communicated with any proponent or opponent regarding the proposal that this is the subject of this proceedings? Eileen.
No. No.
Dan.
No.
Ann.
No.
Al.
No.
Brandon.
No.
Pat.
No.
Nathan.
No.
Glenn, no. Number three, does any member of this council have either a financial or personal interest in the outcome of this proceeding? Eileen.
No.
Dan.
No.
Ann.
No.
Al. Al, you're muted.
No, I couldn't hear you.
Brandon.
No.
Pat.
No.
And Nathan.
No.
And no for Glenn. Number four, does any member of this council know whether or not their employer has a financial interest in this matter or an interest in the outcome of this proceedings? Eileen.
No.
Dan.
No.
Pat.
No.
Ann.
No.
Al Sorensen.
No.
Brandon.
No.
Nathan.
No.
And no for Glenn. Does any member of this council live or own property within 300 feet of the area which is subject to this proceedings? Eileen.
No.
Dan.
No.
Ann.
No.
Al.
No.
Brandon.
No.
Pat Wright.
No.
Nathan Weller.
No.
And no for Glenn. Does any member of this council have any special knowledge about the substance or merits of this proceedings, which would or could cause the council member to prejudge the outcome of this proceedings? Eileen.
No.
Dan.
No.
Ann.
No.
Al. I saw your face move say no. Brandon.
No.
Pat Wright.
No.
Nathan.
No.
And no for Glenn. Number seven, is there any member of this council who believes that he or she cannot sit and hear this matter fairly and impartially, both as to the respective positions, the proponents and opponents of this proceedings? Eileen.
No.
Dan Records.
No.
Ann.
No.
Al.
No.
Brandon.
No.
Pat.
No.
Nathan.
No.
And Laura told me I still need to read this, even though we have no way of probably finding out if anyone wanted to disqualify, but we'll do it. Is there any member of the audience who, because of the appearance of fairness doctrine, wishes to disqualify any member of the council from hearing this matter? If so, state the name of the council member and the reason or reasons why you believe that member should be disqualified because of the appearance of fairness. And again, we had this matter up. People had a chance to comment, and we heard nothing from the audience on this. Now, with appearance of fairness, we now go live to RJ Lott.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, City Council. Before you this evening is a zone change application submitted to planning staff by Centier Engineering on behalf of the property owner, Steve Mader. This application is a request to rezone a 1.7 acre parcel from R3 medium density residential to C3 general commercial. The parcel is located southwest of the intersection of Albion Drive and SR 27, as you should be able to see on your screen now. Yes, there we go. Currently, the property is vacant land and has not been developed. For reference, R3 medium density residential allows for single family homes, duplexes, and apartment complexes of up to 29 units per acre. The proposed zone change to C3 general commercial uses or is for general commercial uses dependent upon convenient vehicular access. This location would use access from Albion Drive. The submitted environmental checklist was reviewed and resulted in a determination of non-significance on January 14th, 2021, and it is attachment E to the planning staff report. The notice of public hearing was mailed to property owners within 300 feet on January 15th, 2021, and published on January 16th, 2021 in the Moscow Pullman Daily News. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on this proposal on January 27th, 2021. There was no verbal or written testimony received before or during that hearing. The Planning Commission voted unanimously for a recommended approval recommendation of the comp plan map amendment from residential to commercial and to change the zoning from R3 medium density residential to C3 general commercial. One note I'd like to make the council aware of, since this is changing both the zoning and comp plan map designation, an ordinance is before you to amend the zoning classification, and I would recommend that that would have a separate motion from the resolution to amend the comprehensive plan map designation. If there's any questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Questions of the proposal? And this also includes now we get some more affordable homes that would be available, and also some additional exits and driveways, correct, RJ?
No, this would be for a zone change to general commercial, so this would not be any residential.
Okay. I mean, I was listening to another proposal. It must have been the Planning Commission that has something coming up.
Can RJ throw that map back up there? Would that be possible?
That's also in your packet there too.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure we were all on the same page here. And Mr. Mayor, if you don't mind, if I just ask a question.
Sure.
So RJ, I just want to double check here. So the dashed line where it says zoning district boundary, that's current. And so we're just talking about that little sliver moving, basically, we'll just say being annexed into that other C3 zone. Is that what we're looking at?
Yes. So
Okay.
there's an existing commercial zone, the C3,
Right.
which has immediate frontage on Albion Drive.
Right.
And this rezone would be for the shaded gray area, which would change it from the R3 zone, which is located to the south.
Yeah. Okay.
And create essentially a larger C3 zone to the north.
Okay. Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's what I thought. I'm a mix of both a visual learner and, reading it. And so I needed to kind of put those together. So this makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Right there on Highway 27. So there it is. Yeah. Other questions? If not, do I hear a motion, first of all, on the ordinance?
Mayor, it's
Yes.
actually, first of all, on the resolution to change the comprehensive plan before you can change the zoning.
Well, I had that one as 1A and 1B. Okay, so we'll move it around. Okay, first of all, do I hear a motion on the resolution?
Move to adopt the resolution amending the official comprehensive plan.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Again, all those, Laura, would you read the resolution, please?
Resolution number R-10-21, a resolution amending the official comprehensive plan map of the city of Pullman from medium density residential to commercial for the real estate herein described, consisting of approximately 1.7 acres located southwest of the intersection of Albion Drive and SR 27.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? And now, do I hear a motion on the ordinance?
Move to adopt ordinance number 21-3.
Okay. I hear a second. Would you read the ordinance, Laura?
Ordinance number 21-3, an ordinance approving the proposal to amend the zone classification from R3 to C3 for the real estate herein described, consisting of 1.7 acres located southwest of the intersection of Northwest Albion Drive and SR 27.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay. Thank you very much, RJ. With that, we go down to item number 2 on our agenda tonight. And this is a resolution accepting a bid of Motley and Motley for a sanitary sewer replacement. And we go to our city engineer, Kara Haley. Kara?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Council. The city sanitary sewer replacement 2021 contract includes replacing a total of 1,650 linear feet of sanitary sewer main in 2 different project locations. A map showing those locations and the project limits is included in your council packet. The first location is directly behind Encounter Ministries, where the existing sewer runs underground down a steep hillside from Northwest State Street eastward towards Ritchie Street. Historical records indicate this pipe segment was originally installed here in 1914 and has been more or less untouched since. In addition to this age factor, a sanitary sewer overflow occurred in this location in 2019, identifying it as a problem area that requires frequent maintenance to keep under control. The best long-term fix in this location is replacement of the line. The second project area is on Sunnyside Hill, running from Far Cemetery northward to West Main Street. In this particular location, the existing sanitary sewer runs inside an easement that is west of and parallel to Skyline Drive along the back edge of several residential properties. The existing clay main was also constructed over 100 years ago, sometime pre-1920, and the segment requires frequent jetting and rotting by maintenance and operations crews to combat heavy root intrusion. And so it makes it another high priority area that we would like to address. The primary method of sewer replacement specified for this project is pipe bursting. This is a specialty technique that allows for in-place replacement of buried pipe with little need for traditional open trench construction. Both project locations are ideal candidates for this pipe bursting approach due to the difficult terrain and existing above ground obstacles. And so they were grouped together into this single project as a result. An additional advantage to pipe bursting here is that the end product will be a continuous flexible plastic pipe between manholes, and this will prevent root intrusion occurrence and also eliminate potential for joint offsets to form as the pipeline ages. Bidding for this project closed on January 21st of this year with only 2 bid proposals received. A bid summary is provided for reference in your council packet. The low bidder was Motley Inc. at $414,664.56, which is roughly 25% higher than the engineer's estimate of $331,199.33. The second bid was significantly higher than both the engineer's estimate and the low bid, coming in at just over $536,000. The main discrepancy between the low bid and the engineer's estimate deals with the cost to restore disturbed areas to their original state, particularly in the backyards of the properties along Skyline Drive. Many of the yards are fenced in with mature trees and other existing obstacles present. Pipe bursting will minimize disturbances to the backyards, but each residential sewer service still needs to be reconnected to the new sewer main via spot excavation. In addition, spot excavation is required to replace or modify many of the existing manholes located along the segments to be replaced. From a contractor's perspective, there are a lot of complexities in accessing, protecting, maintaining, and restoring these backyards, which we underestimated in our cost estimate. Equipment type and use is limited due to accessibility constraints, and temporary trench shoring is substantial for this project to keep workers safe while also minimizing the footprint of spot excavations. Our project engineer communicated closely with residents during the design process to determine access logistics, but temporary removal and replacement of various obstructions will still be required during the course of the work. When such work items and the associated cost difference is parsed out, the remaining overage between the low bid and the engineer's estimate ends up being less than 7%. It is staff's recommendation that council adopt the prepared resolution accepting the bid of Motley Inc. For a number of reasons, we do not believe there would be any advantage to rebidding the project. First, cost disparities were reviewed closely and the low bid deemed fair and reasonable given the logistics and complexities required. Second, the project was bid at really an ideal time of year with a lot of perceived interest during the advertisement period and presumably reaching a large audience of potential bidders. Third, to even rebid the contract, we would require rescoping of the proposed work, which is difficult to do because both project locations address old, high-priority problem areas where pipe bursting is the ideal solution. The way pipe bursting works, because it's somewhat of a specialty, mobilization costs can be expensive, making it most cost-effective when performed in larger quantities. Breaking the project up now would result in a higher overall cost later, as we'd essentially end up paying for pipe bursting mobilization costs twice. Lastly, Motley Inc. is a local company. They understand our expectations and priorities regarding protection and quality restoration of disturbed project areas, including yards, and we're confident that they will be invested in ensuring the project outcome is a success. Funding for this project will be from the Sewer Fund, the Water Fund, and the Stormwater Fund. And work on the project is expected to start in June and to be complete by the end of August. And that concludes my presentation, and I'll happily take any questions.
Questions of our city engineer, Kara. Brandon, I see your hand up.
Yeah, Kara, thank you. And to RJ too, I see you're in your office, so thank you for hanging out with us tonight pretty late. So I had a friend who once told me, and I'm sure he was joking, but every sanitary sewer overflow has a good story. So could I just ask, like, it said that we had this issue. What was the issue? Like, what caused this this issue as it ended up coming out? And then I gather, I mean, it's something we definitely need to fix, but what was the root cause?
Yeah, so the root cause of this, so a couple of things. We've had issues with both of these segments as far as maintenance having to go out there. The segment that I mentioned the overflow on was the location 1, which is back behind Encounter Ministries. There's a steep hillside that comes down. After the fact, we were able to TV the line. So a lot of times when we have an overflow, we'll come in and jet the line and just clean it out and make sure that it's looking good. In this particular case, because the line is so old, and it also navigates down a steep hillside, there's a lot of deflection in the joints. So over time, they've separated. There's root intrusion that comes into it. When a root comes into a pipe, it can block the pipe and sewage can back up behind it. It can sometimes then spill out of joints upstream from it and work its way, through the actual ground surface. So what happened in this particular case is somebody noticed that there was sewage kind of coming out of the ground back behind that hillside. There's also a storm sewer that runs relatively parallel to this. You never want to have a sanitary sewer overflow, but it's also concerning when there's a potential path to get into the down gradient stream. So maintenance and operation crews get calls for these and they go out as quickly as they can. They were able to, put a stop to this, but to basically keep it from happening, they have to do frequent maintenance on it. The joints aren't going to get better. You'll see more infiltration come into the system there. And with the storm sewer running adjacent to it, there's just concerns with that material transferring back and forth, in which we don't want. So the age of it doesn't help as well, but to really solve the problem and minimize the efforts that are required to keep this clear and prevent a problem in the future, it warrants replacement.
Yeah, and I thank you for the description of that, because I can imagine in some cases, no matter what, I mean, we're talking about some old stuff we're working with. I know a Vista goes between my house all the time, and they're looking at their gas pipelines and the way trees could interfere. Are we doing, like, just because of the cost of this for other areas? We got a lot of hills where we can prevent some of this potentially in the future. So preventative maintenance on other things. Are we looking at that or doing that? Because obviously we got to take care of this situation, but for other things.
Yeah, and as infrastructure continues to age, we're going to have more segments where we get the same occurrence. I know maintenance and operations is working heavily to get into a really good routine of identifying, and this is one of the segments that they identify. I think it's every 4 months they have to go out and pay attention to it and do some work on it to make sure that it doesn't overflow. So there's a lot of logistics that can go into it. I know they're working to identify those ideal segments in a way that we can hit all of the different zones of town. some pipes are going to be bigger and have less concerns, and you won't need to do maintenance on them as frequently. But others, I think the idea is you'll get into routine maintenance, every 5 years you hit all of the sewers throughout town. So I know there's a lot of talk about that. And I had a thought to add to that.
They usually show you on our M&O schedule once a week that Mike Urban shows, where they're, again, with their TV cameras and with their routers and things like that, making sure the sewer lines, they have a preventative and a proactive way of trying to work on this.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions? Brandon, did that answer everything?
It did. Thank you. No, and I everything else was spelled out pretty clearly. So thank you, Kara.
Yep.
There's no other questions. Do I hear a motion on this one?
So
Move to adopt R-11-21.
Okay, Laura, would you read the resolution, please?
We get a second.
Resolution, oh, yep, I did not hear a second.
Second.
I did. I got it. We had both a motion and a second.
Oh, excuse me. Okay.
Okay.
Resolution number R-11-21, a resolution accepting the bid of Motley Inc. for sanitary sewer replacement 2021 and authorizing execution and delivery of the contract for said project.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? With that, that concludes the regular council meeting tonight. We've checked earlier if there was any new business. We had no report of any new business. And we will now be adjourning this meeting and pursuing an executive session. The city council will adjourn to executive session to discuss the strategy or position to be taken by the city in a course of collective bargaining or grievance proceeding. And that executive session will be for a period of 15 minutes. We will start in about 3 minutes. Stay on here right now. You will get an invite to the executive session.
How does that invite?
adjourn?
So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay, moved and second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. With that, thank you very much for attending the council meeting.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Good meeting tonight.
Very good
Thanks,
meeting
Paul.
tonight.
Yes.
Thank you.